to everyone out there. This is Jeff Lightsy Jr. here with the Black Boss Channel, here with my special guest, Mr. Marcus Lamar from the Mark My Words show. Marcus, how are you doing this morning?
Jeff, what's going on, brother? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, it is a beautiful day, and it was a crazy day in the world of sports, a crazy weekend over the weekend. Let's start really quick by one of the most wild stories I think I had ever heard in a while, right? So it's the Bronny James Larsa Pippen mess, right? So for those who don't know, Bronny James, there was an article posted by a guy named Robert Littal from Black Sports Online, and it was rumored that Bronny James had slid in the DMs of Larsa Pippen, right? So it's just totally disgusting, right? Like Larsa Pippen is old enough to be Bronny James' damn near grandma and some, you know what I'm saying? Like it's just totally disgusting. And Robert took a lot of hit on this because there was no real evidence, right? The only thing that he had to show was that Bronny had liked one of Larsa's pictures. And we know Larsa has been in the news a lot about all the just kind of crazy stuff she's been up to with Malik Beasley and his wife and all that stuff. So Savannah James, LeBron James's wife, actually addressed this. Now, this is not something we see of Savannah. Savannah normally plays the backdrop, right? Like she normally plays in the back, but she had to address it. And she was like, "No, this is going too far. You guys think Bronny is a celebrity, but actually Bronny's a kid. Like at the end of the day, Bronny is 15 years old. He is a child, and I don't care how much of a celebrity you think he is. He is a child." Marcus, just kind of hearing this story, what are your thoughts on everything that's going on with this?
Well, typically, whenever you're talking about someone's child or children, the general rule of thumb is that they're off limits. So I agree with Savannah in the sense that as much as a high profile of a kid, quote unquote, Bronny Jr. is, like he's still a child. Like he's still what's considered a minor. I would say this, because of who his father is, right? There are some people who are going to use that as a license to go after him. And anytime you attach LeBron James or LeBron James' son to a story, you know it's going to generate traction.
Yes.
I.e., we led the show today with this topic.
Yes.
I don't know what the ins and outs are, but I generally try to stay away from kids and stories pertaining to children.
Yes.
LeBron James' son, Bronny Jr., is a basketball player who has aspirations, I believe, of playing in the NBA one day. But as it pertains to me, I tend to evaluate him as it pertains to his on-court productivity and what his ceiling is as a potential player in the NBA. I don't care what he does off the court. As long as his parents are fine with it, then that's something for their household to address.
That's so crazy because with Bronny, it's you see like Savannah addressed him as a kid, right? But you continue to see his celebrity grow. As much as Savannah probably hates it or doesn't like it or whatever, like Bronny James is a celebrity. And that's a lot to put on a kid, right? Like that is so much because everything that he does is now nitpicked. Not just because his name is LeBron James Jr., but also because he is extremely talented, because he also has this crazy, like millions of followers on social media, because he is in the public sphere and he's not afraid to be in the public sphere. Now, in this situation, it's disgusting because the only evidence we had was him liking a picture. And Robert, and I don't know Robert Littal, but I do follow BSO and they follow me. And so they might see this. And what I will say is the only problem with all of this is simply because you ran with a rumor with no real evidence, right? Like it's just a rumor. Like and we know Larsa Pippen's name is really hot right now because of all the craziness with her and Malik Beasley. And we know that the James family is super popular. So we know anything with LeBron James's name attached to it, and even his son Bronny James, now that he is a celebrity attached to it, is going to get you clicks, it's going to get you likes, and it'll get you talked about, like you said. And that's the only thing like you said, I try to stay away from stuff like that simply because, but I had to talk about it because it was very interesting. And it was like, wow, like this is what we've come to as as some people would say is black media. And that's not the representation of black media that all of us take, especially in the sporting world. But let's move on. Let's move on to some basketball, some real on the court stuff. The Clippers. Marcus, they got beat by 50, man. What the hell is going on in LA with the Clippers? How in the world did they get beat by 50 points? Just please take it away.
So I'm on the other end of the pendulum. I'm not going to overreact to this game because here's my belief. whatever ceiling you had for the Clippers prior to the season, yesterday's victory is not going to change that. So I didn't think the Clippers were going to win the title this year. I had the Lakers as the prohibitive favorites, with the Brooklyn Nets being second. The Los Angeles Clippers are a formidable team in the Western Conference. I like the additions they made in the offseason by bringing in Nicholas Batum as well as Serge Ibaka, but I still don't think that they were good enough to beat the Lakers in a 7-game series. It has nothing to do with Kawhi Leonard. It has everything to do with his sidekick, Paul George. Paul George is not on the level of Anthony Davis. Therein lies the problem. It doesn't matter how great Paul George plays in the regular season. We know he's ultimately going to be judged by what he does come playoff time. Now, yesterday, obviously, we know Kawhi Leonard wasn't playing, so just to offer full context. So it's not like they got beat by 50-plus points with Kawhi Leonard on the court. Kawhi Leonard was out, and you know how it is. According to Paul George, he said he had too much fun on Christmas, which he always seems to or whenever he falls short or whenever he comes short. But I'm not going to overreact. The Mavericks are a good team. They were hitting a bunch of shots. It was one of those days where the ceiling fell in. It's much ado about nothing, in my opinion.
I don't think so. I think this actually says a lot. And the reason why it says a lot, because you don't get beat by 50 points until win a championship. I'm sorry. I can't. Last I checked, I ain't never heard. First of all, a team has never been down by 50 points at halftime ever. So that was a first. They're setting records in the wrong direction. And then secondly, to be lackluster or whatever, blame it on Christmas or whatever. Okay, that maybe was an excuse for the first half. 50 points, there's no excuse for that. But even if we want to give you an excuse, we'll give you an excuse for that first half. But then you still lost by 50 points. So there was no ground made up. Like no ground. Like even if you made up 20 points worth of ground, you still lose by 30. And there was no ground made up because you lost by 50. See, to me, that says a lot about like you say it's not much to do about nothing because you didn't have the Clippers win the championship anyway.
No.
So I thought that the triangle offense could make the Clippers a potential champion. Now, do I think they can beat the Lakers in the 7-game series? No, but I do think that they have enough talent to challenge LA. And I thought, okay, with the triangle offense, two guys that love the mid-range game. Analytics is kind of like made basketball threes and layups, right? But these are two guys that play defense and that can score a lot in the mid-range game. So I thought the triangle offense could really help that. But when you lose by 50, all of that goes out the window. I don't care if you had Christmas the day of, the day before, the day after. I don't care. Like, you don't get beat by 50. Like, no, and think I'm going to take you serious as a legit championship contender. That can't. Kawhi, no Kawhi. If Paul George laced up and everybody except Kawhi played, you don't lose by 50 to a team like the Mavericks who aren't going to win a championship. Like, that's the thing. It wasn't like they lost by 50 to the Nets or to Milwaukee or to, some team that we consider a really title contender. Mavericks aren't a title contender. Like, they're a good team, but they didn't have Kristaps Porzingis. Like, they're not gonna blow. They're not supposed to blow you out the water like this. So, like, 50 points is just inexcusable to me. That's why I find this as a big deal. That's why that's the sole purpose.
Let me push back a little bit. So, what last season has shown and what this season shown on opening night is that the Clippers get up for only one team in the NBA, and that's the Lakers. They love playing the Lakers. They live to play the Los Angeles Lakers. The problem is they can't play the Lakers in the first round of the playoffs, right? You're going to have to actually beat other teams in order to get to them because both of the Lakers and Clippers are going to have high seeds in the West. But therein lies the issue. The Clippers get up only for the Lakers, and they tend to either play down or they tend to play lethargic or disengage when they play other teams. Do I think the Mavericks will beat the Clippers in the playoffs? No, I don't. I don't think any team in the West will beat the Clippers in a 7-game series outside of it. And I know that's a bold statement, but let me jog people's memories. You get down 3-1 in a series. You are down 3-1 for a reason. The Clippers proved that they weren't able to close last year. And I still have questions about whether or not they have a closer. But they were up 3-1 on the Nuggets for a reason. The Utah Jazz were up 3-1 on the Nuggets for a reason.
Yes.
As much as everybody loves the Denver Nuggets, we have to take into account the totality of circumstances. The Clippers play extremely well against the Lakers. In fact, they play their hardest against the Lakers. The problem is, do you trust them against other teams in the Western Conference? It's almost as if they're looking ahead of themselves before they even get to the Lakers. That will ultimately be their downfall. In terms of talent, someone just said Clippers won't make the playoffs. That's laughable.
Yeah, I had to throw that on the screen because that was pretty funny, huh?
Yeah, that's just laughable. In terms of actual talent, their team is good. I like the addition of Serge Ibaka. He's much better than Ivica Zubac. So I'm not going to say that the Clippers team isn't a good team. I know everyone's going to get their jokes off, which that's what we're here to do. But again, if they go out and smack a team by 40, is that going to change the narrative? No, because if you had the Clippers winning the title before the season, you had them winning the title before the season. If you didn't, like myself, yesterday didn't change anything. They're not beating the West. They're not beating the Lakers, and they're not coming out of the Western Conference.
Yeah, see, my only thing is, like I said, I don't think, once again, I'm talking to Marcus Lamar from the Mark My Words show. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe. Now, the thing is, like I said, my biggest thing is that I didn't have him win the title, but damn, I didn't think I'd get beat by 50. At any team, I just don't see a champion winning, like any team that even wants to consider themselves championship material or potential to win the championship losing by 50 points. Like that just can't happen. Like you can't lose by 50 points and think that you have a chance of really competing with someone. Because, I mean, the thing is, like you said, if you can't get up to even close the gap, even make it a 25-point loss or a 30-point loss or damn a 40-point loss, to be down by 50 at halftime and to lose by 50 with or without your best player, with or without Marcus Morris or being hurt or whatever, you can't come to me and be like, yeah, I'm really ready to win a championship. Because if you can't get up for games like regular season games, now I get it. Every game isn't the same. Every game doesn't hold the same weight. But in the playoffs, you're a team that hasn't proven anything. And so some of these regular season games mean a little more, especially when you lose by 50 points to a team that thinks this Dallas Mavericks team thinks that they can beat the Clippers in a 7-game series.
They do.
Like they had them on the ropes last year. And they should have won a game where Kristaps Porzingis got thrown out. Then he got hurt. So they really think they can beat him, and now they beat him by 50. Once you see this Dallas Mavericks team, they're going to be a hard out, just like that Denver team was, and it's going to be something to see and something to remember come playoff time. Now let's change gears a little bit. Go to the other team in LA, the Lakers. They're looking pretty good, Marcus. They're starting to get that chemistry with Wes Matthews and Marcus Gasol and a bunch of players that they added this offseason. Dennis Schroeder, Montrezl Harrell. Like Marcus, right now you said you think the Lakers can win the champ or will win the championship. Do you think any team has a chance to beat this LA team?
The only team that has a chance would be the Brooklyn Nets, and I still wouldn't put money on that. So let me say this. The Los Angeles Lakers are going through the motions, right? If you watch them opening night, I knew they would come out as flat as they did. They were down by 20 points at one point to the Clippers, which if you ask the Clippers players, I'm pretty sure they would tell you that was their NBA Finals. Like I just mentioned in the segment before, the Clippers really get up to play the Los Angeles Lakers. There's no denying that. We saw that last year. We saw it this year on opening night. With that being said, LeBron James is still going through the motions out there. He's still trying to get his legs under him. Yes. He hasn't really had a bunch of impressive performances. All right. But what I would say about LeBron is what's remarkable about this stage, about him at this stage in his career, is that his IQ is as high as it's ever been. Right. So we obviously know his athleticism has dissipated. But if you watch him, it's almost as if the game comes easy to him or he makes it look easy out there, which it's not. He's still going against other professionals, but it's because he's so cerebral out there. He's truly a quarterback coach. He's truly a surgeon. He's truly a general. He knows how to lead the troops. Last night, I was worried. Before I found out that Cat wasn't going to play and I saw that Anthony Davis was going to be out, I thought LeBron would have been asked to do more. But last night I come out and they smoked Minnesota. Obviously, Cat didn't play, and that probably would have changed their fortunes. I still thought they were going to lose the basketball game, but they smoked Minnesota. So I think what you will see from this Lakers team moving forward is they're still going to try and figure out what rotations work best. Yes. They're not going to overexert LeBron because there's no need to. I don't think home court advantage really matters in the Western Conference because
they'll have it though. They'll get it though.
Right. LeBron James is what in Game 7s? LeBron James is one of the best Game 7 performers, probably behind Bill Russell in NBA history. So if you ever ask me whether it's home or on the road, LeBron James Game 7 versus someone else, I'm always going to ride with LeBron James. So the Lakers look good. They still haven't hit their stride, which is scary for the rest of the NBA.
And see, what I think the key with the Lakers is Kuzma's contract. Now, that might sound crazy. It's like, but Kuzma now has the security that, at least as of now, he's not getting traded. Right. They signed him to a long-term deal, and I think psychologically that does a lot for a young player, right? Like Kuzma is still finding his footing with this team. He's still finding his footing playing with LeBron James and with the new pieces. But I think that gives him a level of confidence to know, like, hey, they just signed me to a $40 million deal. As of now, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to be with LeBron and AD for the long term. And so what that does for you, like I said, what that does for him, that makes him a lot better player, lets him play loose. Now, his IQ still isn't the best. He still makes some of the dumbest decisions in the NBA, but that's a different point. You can see him go off. Like you said, he had his first 4 threes of the game. Kuzma had a great game last night. Like, I think that, like, having Kuzma under contract is a big, like, burden relieved off him, and that makes the Lakers a much better team, especially if his play improves. With Dennis Schroeder, we've seen what he can do. We've seen what Trez can do. He is an animal when it comes time to play. And Marc Gasol being that stretch 5 that allows him to hit threes, and he can pass the way he's – I mean, he's dropping dimes to LeBron last night. Marcus, I don't know if you watched, but he was dropping some dimes, look like vintage Marc Gasol. Like, everybody plays better when you're under contract. Everybody plays better when a team is winning. Everybody plays better when you see a championship. You have tunnel vision for a championship, and that's what I think the Lakers have right now. I don't see a team right now. Now, Brooklyn still has a lot of games to play. I think Brooklyn's a really good team. I think Brooklyn's elite, actually. No, not just a really good team. I think they're elite. And the shot KD missed last night, he's going to make any other night, like every other night besides last night. So they would have won that game as hard as Charlotte played them and as great a game Charlotte got out of their players. But I do think LeBron and the Lakers, I just don't see anybody beating them in a 7-game series. I don't, like, not right now anyway.
I don't either. On any given night, the Lakers have 4 or 5 individuals. LeBron, obviously, Anthony Davis, Montrezl Harrell. They have Kyle Kuzma, and they have Dennis Schroeder, who can get you 18 to 20 points per game on any given night. Like, all of those guys could explode for 20-plus points. That is a luxury. A lot of teams in the NBA don't have that. I know a lot of people are raving about the Brooklyn Nets, how they have guys like Spencer Dinwiddie, Karis LeVert, KD, and Kyrie who can light up the scoreboard. But the Lakers do too. It's not like the Lakers are second-class citizens in terms of the rest of their roster. But as I mentioned on a previous show of yours that we did together, the history of the NBA tells us that anytime you pair 2 top 5 players together, which many people out there believe Anthony Davis has ascended into that, I think he's actually descended. I think he's actually a top 7 player, but that's no knock on him. Anytime you have 2 top 5 players, it's almost impossible to beat them 7 in a 7-game series, which is 4 times over the course of 2 weeks. It's almost impossible. We saw it with Shaq and Kobe. We saw it with MJ and Scottie. All right. We're seeing it now with LeBron and AD. Anthony Davis is a nightmare for anybody he plays against. Every series he goes into, he is going to be a nightmare matchup for the opposing team. That goes for the Brooklyn Nets. And that's not to say that LeBron doesn't pose problems for individuals or other teams. It's just at this stage in LeBron's career, he's not the athletic or physical specimen that AD is, right? His prime is behind him, and it's barely behind him. It's not even in the real
crazy prime right here, right now.
But at the end of the day, Anthony Davis, you have to account for him. And there's nobody in the NBA who has a defender that can account for Anthony Davis one-on-one. I'm not talking about bringing help side, double team. I'm talking about one-on-one. That's really going to be the difference. When they play the Clippers, Anthony Davis is going to be huge. When they play the Brooklyn Nets, if they make it to the finals, the Nets do, that's going to be huge, because as much as I love Kevin Durant offensively, he can't check Kevin Durant defensively.
Yeah, no, I think it's gonna be crazy to watch just them going forward. I know one thing I've said before: when you win titles with 2 great players, you don't win just one; you win in bunches, right? So I think that bunches, that second one, is coming this year. Now let's shift gears a little bit, Marcus, to the NFL. Right? We see Aaron Rodgers just lighting up the league. He had another 4 touchdowns, I want to say, last night. Green Bay's looking to lock up that 1 seed in the NFC. Just Aaron Rodgers, do you think he's the MVP? And if so, why or why not?
Yeah, so I think he's the MVP. I was actually talking to one of my buddies. The MVP award is cursed. I couldn't tell you the last time the recipient of the MVP award actually won the Super Bowl. So there have been people who won the MVP award and made it, but they've lost. And there's other people who've actually won the award but didn't reach the Super Bowl. I think we have to go back to the late 90s in order to find the last person who did that. And it may have been Kurt Warner. Somebody, if you're out there listening, fact check me. But as I digress, Aaron Rodgers has been sensational this year. 2nd year in a new offense with a new head coach, and he's putting up ungodly numbers. He's the only quarterback in NFL history to throw over 40 touchdowns in 3 different seasons. That in of itself is impressive. Adams has 17 touchdowns currently, and he missed 2 games. I don't know what he would have done had he been around for those 2 games. But if you look at the Green Bay Packers, I'll say this, and I'll let you talk. The Green Bay Packers' path to making it to the Super Bowl is they have to secure the number 1 seed. I believe Aaron Rodgers was 9-7 or 9-8 in the postseason, and everyone always knows the Green Bay Packers organization in their tenure of Aaron Rodgers, their defense has given up 30-plus points habitually. Yeah. Imagine the pressure he feels when he has to take the field knowing that he has to put up 40 points because his defense is going to give up 36 points. There's no quarterback that I see, with respects to Russell Wilson and the great Drew Brees, there's no quarterback that I see currently in the NFC that's going to go into Lambeau Field and beat the Green Bay Packers to go to the Super Bowl if the Packers have home field advantage. So the Packers need home field advantage probably more than any other team in the NFC. I give them a really good shot to get it because they're playing Chicago next week. If they get home field advantage, there's a good chance that we can get Patrick Mahomes versus Aaron Rodgers in the Super Bowl, which would make for one epic collage.
It definitely would. Now, Aaron Rodgers is the MVP. Like that, let's just get that out the way because, I mean, like you said, 40, I think he's at 44 touchdowns now, only five interceptions. Devontae Adams got 17 touchdowns. Like, he's the MVP. Like, let's not even talk about that. Let's get more to the Packers. So the Packers, are they the best team in the NFC? I don't know. I think Seattle's a really good team. Now, what you said about the Packers defense, I think you can flip that a little bit because this defense is different. They got a Pro Bowl in Jai Alexander. They got a Pro Bowl in Zadarius Smith. Rashawn Gary is coming on and playing great. Amos is playing great. Kevin King is doing his thing. Like, so they got some players on the defense side of the ball. They've drafted heavily. Defense. Like Jair, they drafted. Savage, they drafted at safety. Amos, they got from the Bears. Zadarius Smith, they got in free agency. Rashawn Gary, they drafted. So they've invested a lot of picks on the defensive side of the ball, and it's showing up. Like, it's really – like, they got Pro Bowlers on that side because they drafted well. They got guys that can play on that side of the ball because they have drafted well recently. Now, the thing about Aaron Rodgers is he's always able to make a chicken salad or chicken you-know-what. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's always been able to ball. And when he's got a baller like a Devontae Adams and guys like Lazard are coming back and playing well, and Aaron Jones is healthy. A.J. Dillon finally showed that he was worth the second-round pick last night. Like, this Packers team is dangerous. The only team I will say that I think can go in there and pull off an upset is Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson is the only guy. Now, Brady, I don't think so. I don't think that any of those Drew Brees or injured Brees, I don't think those teams can go into Green Bay and win a game. I don't think so. I think Russell Wilson can do it. I think he's that talented. I think the connection he's got with DK Metcalf, and the fact that since like week 8, their defense has jumped leaps and bounds. Absolutely. Right? Like, because ever since they went out and got Dunlap, and since Jamal Adams has been healthy, they had the worst defense statistically the first like 8 weeks of the season. Like, they had the worst defense in NFL history statistically, right? So, like, the fact that they've shored up that side of the ball, the running backs are finally healthy. Carson, Penny, Carlos Hyde, all those guys are healthy. I think Seattle is my favorite out of the NFC, and that's mainly because Drew Brees is hurt. I think if Drew Brees was healthy, I would give it to the Saints. But with him being hurt, broken ribs, and Taysom Hill's your backup, and I don't got faith in the Saints. But the Packers and Aaron Rodgers are definitely the team to beat as of right now. But I would like Seattle over the Packers. Now, just sticking with Aaron Rodgers, like you said, he's doing things that historically has never been done before. The 40-yard touchdowns, some of his stats just historically are just ridiculous, right? So is it fair to call Aaron Rodgers the GOAT, like the best quarterback that you've ever seen? Why or why not?
Well, he's the greatest thrower of the football I've ever seen with respect to Patrick Mahomes. I don't know if that superlative is one that he wants, but there can only be one GOAT. Like, we've got to get out of the habit of calling multiple people the GOAT, right? So he admitted publicly that Tom Brady's the GOAT. You don't then get to say, and I'm not accusing him of this, but Joe Montana then is no longer the GOAT. Peyton Manning is not the GOAT. Well, Peyton Manning's the regular season GOAT. No. GOAT. You can't have the greatest of all time. It's not plural, all right?
No, I get it.
Individual. With that being said, I will make the argument there's no quarterback under more pressure to win a Super Bowl this year than Aaron Rodgers, and here's why. Patrick Mahomes is fresh off of a Super Bowl and Super Bowl MVP. He's got another 10 to 15 years to set the league on fire, right? Tom Brady's a 6-time Super Bowl champion. He's in his first year with a new head coach, no offseason, no OTAs. We know the list goes on and on. He's had injuries and players coming in and out of the lineup all year. Drew Brees, despite the fact that him and Aaron Rodgers are sitting on the same number of Super Bowls, Drew Brees is Mr. Congeniality. People love Drew Brees. He's Walter Payton Man of the Year. He's everything. Field, and Drew Brees has something that Aaron Rodgers doesn't, which is a bunch of NFL records, right? His name is all up and down the NFL history books. Yes. Roethlisberger, even though he's coming up on the end of his career, He's played in 3 Super Bowls and won 2 of them. So there's not immense pressure on him. And despite the fact that Russell Wilson has played in 2 Super Bowls and only won 1, Russell still has another 5 years of dominance. That leaves Aaron Rodgers as the lone individual I've targeted. He has to win a Super Bowl this year. Because we already seen the regular season dominance. We've seen the MVP awards. I desperately want to put him on my Mount Rushmore of quarterbacks, which includes Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, and Joe Montana. But the only thing that's stopping me from throwing Aaron up there comfortably is because he's only sitting on 1 Super Bowl. And people like Eli Manning and Ben Roethlisberger who have 2. 2 takes them into another stratosphere. In terms of individual talent, throwing the football, ball placement, accuracy, he's already there. Yes. But I need a second Super Bowl to solidify his place in NFL history.
Now, the thing about, so do we give any credit or lack thereof on the organization, right? Like the fact that Aaron Rodgers played for the Packers, who don't have an owner. Aaron Rodgers played for Mike Holmgren, who we know is not that crazy. I mean, he's a Super Bowl winning coach, but it's because he had Aaron Rodgers. The fact that they've never taken a skill player in the first round and over his 15-year career, like how much do we weigh? How much does that weigh in all the things? Because when we're just talking football, we're talking about give me one quarterback to go out there and play football, regardless of the system, regardless of the coach, regardless of the settings. I want Aaron Rodgers, right? Like I don't know if there's another player. Patrick Mahomes, maybe. But Brady had 20 years in the same system with the same coach and in one of the best defenses over that duration, 20 years in the history of the league, right? Like Brady had that. Peyton Manning had the same system, the same team, the same coach for 20 years. Now he changed coaches at the end, but he was Peyton Manning, right? Like, and then he hits free agency and is able to pick his team and goes to the team with all the weapons in Denver. So they're able to win a Super Bowl out of that, even when he had a broken neck and he couldn't throw the ball 5 yards and every other pass was an interception. He's still able to win a Super Bowl because the defense was crazy, right? And he also set touchdown record the year before. So that, like, I think that, and then Joe Montana, West Coast offense, same system, same coach for 15 years. Like, so all of that goes into a factor what helps those guys help reach the Mount Rushmore. Rodgers had the Packers with no owner, the Packers with a GM, maybe, and then you have Mike Holmgren. I mean, not Mike Holmgren, the guy that's the head coach, McCarthy, that's the coach of the Cowboys who aren't any good, right? Like, who had a outdated old system. And now we're taking the new young Corvette or Ferrari or whatever that the Packers got now, and he's setting records. He's got 45 touchdowns and 5 picks. Now, like you said, there was a lot of pressure on him to win a Super Bowl this year because the defense is right, because you do have a weapon in Devontae Adams is just immaculate. You do have a running game. You do have an offensive line. So the pieces are there for the Packers to be the best team in football. But there's this guy named Patrick Mahomes. And there's this team called the Kansas City Chiefs. And right now, even though they aren't playing great, I will say Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs look very, very vulnerable right now. Mm-hmm. Like, they look like a regular team. They look like they can be beat on any given Sunday. And I don't know if it's because people will say because they're bored or because they want to do this. Man, forget all of that. Like, when you barely beating teams that you're supposed to blow out, or you're barely winning games, or games like with the Falcons are close, like you got to win it in the fourth quarter. That doesn't bode well with me, especially this late into the season, especially with the playoffs around the corner, especially with the 1 seed on the line. Now they locked it up, but at the same time, like, all of those stuff was still at play at the same time. Now back to Aaron Rodgers, I tend to want to put Aaron Rodgers as the GOAT simply because the product on the field that I see and the talent that I see on the field, who's matching it? Like, who's matching it? Talent with stats. Right? You got to have both. You got to have both, right? You can't just be supremely talented and have no numbers, but you can't have all the numbers and no talent. Like, you got to have both. And I think Aaron Rodgers, statistically, with what I see with my eyes, he passes the eye test. He passes the eye test with flying colors.
I'm disappointed in you. I truly am, because
Aaron Rodgers in New England for 20 years. What does he do?
Wait a minute. Hold on. Give me a few more inches in Steph Curry's jump shot, and I'd be in the NBA. And not working my craft.
It's not the same.
Because I love how people always say, "Oh, if Aaron Rodgers would have been in Bill Belichick's system, they would have won 8 Super Bowls." Because
they would have.
This mobile. First of all, what do we know about Aaron Rodgers? From his former teammates, and even by his own admission, in a roundabout way, he's not the greatest of leaders. Part of the
reason he's a little bit of a jerk.
And Tom Brady worked is because Brady was willing to be coachable, right? Aaron Rodgers has always given me the impression, and I love him just as much as the next guy, which would be you, Aaron Rodgers has always given me the impression that he's a little too cool for school, right? The way he plays is like, I know I'm really good at this football thing. I make it look easy. I'm going to do it with swag. I'm going to get style points. But let me remind you, you said there's no one you'd rather take. If you had one game to win, I know football is a team sport. Aaron Rodgers has been in 4 NFC championship games. Let me take you back to the first one. Excuse me. He's been in 4 NFC championship games. He's 1-3 in those championship games. But he had a home loss to the Giants. The season they won 15-1 when he threw for 45 touchdowns versus only 6 interceptions. They lost 37-20 at home. Okay. I remember that championship game in 2014 against the Seattle Seahawks. It was inexcusable. Up 19-3 when the guy failed to fall on the onside kick. They blew a 16-point lead in 5 minutes and 50 seconds. And lost the game. Let me take you to another championship game. Atlanta. He got steamrolled. The same Atlanta team that was steamrolling the Green Bay Packers was up 25 points against the actual GOAT, not the faux GOAT, which you said is Aaron Rodgers. Came back and won. Last year's NFC Championship game wasn't even close. Jimmy Garoppolo threw the ball 8 times, and they steamrolled the Packers. So all I'm saying is he has a
defense. You don't play defense?
I'm just saying he's got a lot of ugly blemishes on his resume, and if it's a quarterback-driven league, we can't give them all the praise when things go right and when they win Super Bowls, but when things go wrong, we say, oh, well, it's the defense's fault. I'm not excusing the defense. I know he's had some letdowns, but there's also
some letdowns.
There's also been moments where he has not shown up with his A game, and you can admit that being the
think about the first 3 Super Bowls Brady won. I mean, the man threw the ball 20 times on average a game, right? Like it was the deal. Those were defense. Brady didn't even win Super Bowl MVP. Receivers was winning Super Bowl MVPs and defensive backs and stuff. So the first 3 went to the defense or Adam Vinatieri. I mean, if you want to do that, you want to pick little bitty games.
Wait a minute. Who got them in the field goal range? Be respectful now. Come on. But
he threw the ball on average of 20. I think the first 3 Super Bowls he had like average like right at 200 yards a game. Right? Like right at 200 yards a game. And then the one against the Rams, they scored 13 points. They scored 13 points, 13-3. Huh?
You're talking about the most recent Super Bowl?
Yes, they scored. Yeah, well, they scored. It was 13-3. The Rams had 3 points. So it was the best defensive performance in the Super Bowl. And then the Super Bowl against the Seahawks, Malcolm Butler made the play of the century in that game. Did he not? He not the play of the century. So we're talking about 5 Super Bowls that led on the defense.
Is that what we're doing?
I mean, that's what happened. Are these facts? Or am I making it up? Are they facts or am I making it up? Just tell me that.
But your facts are incomplete because Tom Brady was trailing the Seahawks 24-14 in the fourth quarter. In overtime, in the fourth quarter, he was sensational. He scored 14 points, threw for 2 touchdowns, and threw for over 140 yards against the Legion of Boom. And I don't want to hear that they were broken down, that Richard Sherman was battling the elbow injury, and one of their quarterbacks was out for the game. I'm not trying to hear that. The throws still had to be made. And if you remember, the Seahawks were only in position to even throw. The Seahawks were only in position for Russell Wilson to even throw that goal line interception because the plays before, their receiver got lucky when a New England defensive back batted, he caught it on his backside.
Landed in his lap. But I mean, that's the way the game, like those are the breaks that happen in the Super Bowl. And that's the same way the Patriots win the game when Malcolm Butler makes the play of the century. Tell me if you've seen a play better than that in the Super Bowl history. Like you've never seen a play better than what Malcolm Butler did to give Brady, what was it, his 4th Super Bowl at the time? His 4th Super Bowl in NFL history. So we got the first 3 that was won by the defense. Let's just call it what it was. The 4th one was won by Malcolm Butler. The 5th one, I'll give you Brady. I will give you Brady because the comeback was Brady, 500 something yards or something like that. And then the 6th one was won by the defense again, 13-3. They gave up 3 points in the Super Bowl.
Brady against Carolina, they won that Super Bowl 32-29. That was not a defensive game. Secondly, he should have won the Eagles Super Bowl had Belichick not sabotaged him.
He dropped the ball. He dropped the ball, though. Did he not drop the ball?
You're bringing up a play that took place in the first half. I'm talking about a head coach in Bill Belichick who, for reasons unbeknownst to us, we still don't know why Malcolm Butler was benched. It's one of the greatest American mysteries.
Still a crazy mystery.
He clearly saw Patrick Chung and Eric Rowe getting torched by Alshon Jeffrey and the Eagles wide receivers. The Patriots trailed by more than double digits on multiple occasions in that game. It's the most points ever put up by a Super Bowl loser. Brady threw for 505 and was any other day that would have been perfect for him to win. So he should have won that Super Bowl, but if it wasn't for his head coach So don't tell me that. What you're basically trying to do is you're trying to dismiss Brady's rings, and I'm not going to let you.
I don't know, man. All I'm saying,
you're better than stop this, man.
I'm just saying. You swap the jerseys. You put Aaron Rodgers in the Patriot system. I promise you, he has 6 or maybe more. That's why I think the man is better. And talent-wise, and look, what we will see from what Aaron Rodgers' career could have been is what we're watching with Patrick Mahomes. Because when you give him weapons and you draft according to the quarterback, and you don't have no owner in the organization, and you have a head coach that tends to his quarterback, a head coach that actually has a modern, updated offense, that's what you get. You get a Patrick Mahomes with that kind of talent. And that's what's happened. That's what Aaron Rodgers lacked. That's what Aaron Rodgers was robbed of for 15 years of his career. Now that he's got a guy that's modern in offense, now that they're drafting guys on defense, now they have a real team on the other side of the ball, that's why the Packers are in the position that they are. They went, 14 games last year? They'll win another 12, 13 games this year. And that's what you get with Rodgers. At least that's what I'm seeing.
Jeff, you're wrong. First of all, you can't simply say put Aaron Rodgers in Bill Belichick's system, and he would have had comparable, if not more, success than Tom Brady.
Yes.
What Tom Brady did was remarkable. Nobody in NFL history has ever duplicated what the Patriots did. That's with respect to the Dallas Cowboys in the 90s. That's with respect to the San Francisco 49ers in the 80s and the Pittsburgh Steelers in the 70s. No franchise had ever done it. They went to 9 Super Bowls and won 6 of them. How are you so sure that Brady and Aaron Rodgers would have gelled? Because Aaron Rodgers, part of the reason why Brady and Belichick work is because Brady understood his pecking order in the organization. All right.
Oh, wow. For a long time. Then he got above Bill and he was like, get rid of Garoppolo. And I don't want to do it here no more.
Because if we're being honest, after 2007 was the point in which the Patriots transitioned from being a defensive-minded team to, Tom Brady's arm is going to save us. Belichick, I have a ton of respect for. He's one of the greatest defensive minds in NFL history. I see someone astutely appointed to the fact that Brady cheated. Even Bill Belichick has been linked to multiple scandals. So how people can in the same breath say Belichick is the GOAT, but still malign Tom Brady because he got caught, quote unquote, cheating is beyond me. It shows that you just have Brady animus, and I can't help you with that. Nevertheless, I digress. Aaron Rodgers is a tremendous quarterback talent. But part of the reason why Tom Brady is the GOAT is because of his preparation and approach to the game of football, his ability to elevate people around him. Aaron Rodgers is not the kind of leader that's going to make players run through a wall for him. We heard this from former players. I'm not making this up. This isn't conjecture, speculation, or innuendo. We've heard this from former players. Tom Brady is a great locker room presence. We've seen it in Tampa Bay, away from Belichick, and we saw it in New England.
Yeah, no, it's definitely like the locker room aspect does play a factor, does play a role. Like when that article came out about the Packers, it was interesting because there was a lot of bad stuff about Aaron Rodgers. I'll say that. I'm not saying he's the best human. I'm not saying he's the best boyfriend, brother, because he don't even like his own family or whatever. Like, I ain't saying all of that. I'm just saying the man is crazy talented. And what Patrick Mahomes is becoming is what I think could have been Aaron Rodgers' career. I mean, even at the late stage of his career, he's going to win his 4th MVP. I think it's the 2nd all-time behind Peyton Manning with 5. Like he's that good, he's that talented. But we spent a lot of time on Brady and Aaron Rodgers. You're a Brady guy. I knew that'd get you riled up. I like Aaron Rodgers. You know, it is what it is. One thing before we get out of here, Marcus, the thing in Miami, I do want to touch on Tua in the situation that's happened in Miami. Tua comes in, starts the game. He doesn't play well. They bring in Ryan Fitzpatrick. He wins in the ball game. I remember you talking about this, and the reason why I want to talk to you about this because you said a lot about the Nick Foles Carson Wentz thing. You feel like Carson Wentz hasn't been the same ever since Nick Foles won the Super Bowl.
Yes.
Even though this isn't the Super Bowl or the playoffs, or they're in those high of stakes, but I'm seeing the same thing happening in Miami with a young Tua Tagovailoa, a rookie Tua. Like, what are your thoughts on what's taking place in Miami with Tua and Ryan Fitzpatrick?
Ryan Fitzpatrick is arguably one of the greatest backup quarterbacks in NFL history. All right. Word backup.
Yeah.
We know he's not a starter. Part of being a starting quarterback is how reliable are you, right? That's part of any job. I'm not going to give you more responsibility if you struggle with the responsibility that you have on a week-to-week basis. Ryan Fitzpatrick is not a great talent at the quarterback position. He's been around the NFL for a while, so he knows how to win football games. He knows how to make reads, but eventually the train will come off the tracks. He is going to unravel. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. With that being said, I don't have a problem with head coach Brian Flores inserting him into the football game. He's in the thick of a playoff competition. And let's be honest, for all the hype or talk that surrounded Tua, he's average. He's small. He's not dynamic. He's not overly athletic. He doesn't have a huge arm. He has not changed life for the Miami Dolphins offense, period. He's not done it. And I'm not saying that he's not going to, but what I'm saying is you clearly look at the bench and you know you have someone who is a viable option at quarterback. Ryan Fitzpatrick is something tantamount to Nick Foles because whenever you insert him into the lineup, there's like an instant jolt of whether it's positivity or whether it's production. Now, you know that jolt is going to fizzle out, which is why he can't be your starter. But for all the Tua folks out there, and I don't even think Miami Dolphins fans are sold on Tua. They're taking a wait-and-see approach, right? And that's understandable. But Tua is what he is. He's an average at best quarterback. He's actually below average.
It's kind of early. It's kind of early to say that. I will say it's kind of early to say whether Tua is average or not. I don't like putting Fitz in, even if it's to win games. And here's why. The Dolphins aren't going to win the Super Bowl. Like the Dolphins, they're not going to win Super Bowl. It is what it is. So what I like to say, I want to see what I have in Tua. And I think you're starting to figure it out. And here's why it's so important to see what you have in Tua. Because whether you think he's average, like you think he's average at best, I think he can be better than average. I think it's just going to take time. I think adjusting to the NFL is harder for him. I think it's a lot what we used to see from old USC quarterbacks. They used to be like really, really good in college, but then come to the NFL and be super average or below average. It's because they had the best players on the outside, and every time they threw it to them, they were wide open. Like that's what's happening with Tua. Tua's going to have 4 teammates that he played with at the receiver. You had Judy, who went in the first round. You have Devontae Smith, who might win the Heisman this year, and Jalen Waddle will be a first-round pick. So you're talking about 4 guys that you played with last season or throughout your career at Alabama going the first round. That is a totally different thing than coming to the NFL where the windows are this small, where you got to read the defenses in 0.5 seconds, where you have to air it out some, and where your arm shows. If you have a weak arm, which it looks like he kind of does, when you have a weaker arm, it shows. Like that shows up on Sunday, especially when I flip the channel and I see Justin Herbert throw for 30 touchdowns in 2 less games or whatever, not even the full 16 games. When I flipped the other channel and saw before he got hurt, Joe Burrow just lighting the league on fire. And then I flip the channel and I see Tua throw for 90 yards and 3/4. When I see Tua throw for 5 yards a pass or 4 yards a throw, like that ain't what I'm seeing with those guys. Like those guys are lighting the league on fire. And then when I look at Tua in the huddle, he looks like they say he's 6'2" or 6'3", but he looks like 5'9". Like, you know what I'm saying? Like the men just look so much bigger than him. Where Justin Herbert looks like a man, right? Like those kind of things matters. Like optics matter. And then especially when you're not producing on the field. And when I insert Ryan Fitzpatrick, he throws for 180 yards in a quarter. Like we're talking about 100-something yards in a quarter, and you had 90 in the first 3. And then he comes in and wins me the ball game, and you couldn't get us down the field at all. Like, so the reason why that to me is not the way to go, because you're turning the fan base against him. Like the fans have no hope in Tua now because he's not going out there. He's not doing what Herbert's doing. He's not doing what Joe Burrow was doing. And then you got Fitzpatrick come in and win you ball games. So what's up with that? And you have Houston's pick top 5. So people are like, man, if he ain't it, go get another quarterback.
Yeah, his play is turning the fan base against him. Don't blame this on the fans. I apologize to the Miami Dolphin fans.
No, but the coaches are too. The coaches are helping. They're not hurting.
No, but here's the thing. Coaches structure a game plan around what they feel like their players can do. Yeah. Tua is limited for whatever reason. He's not going to grow. Yeah. He's not growing anymore. I think the age where men can stop growing in terms of height might be 26. He might grow. He might. He's probably not going to.
Only NBA players grow when they get into pros. That's weird. Right. But only they do.
He doesn't have an electric arm. He's not overly athletic. He's limited in what he can do. Now, what I will say is this. There's a certain belief that if a player or players question who they're playing with, it's going to affect their performance because they don't have faith in his skill set. Like you said, the NFL is a big man's game. Like you don't see too many small people flourishing. Kyler Murray is able to have success because he's athletic. He's dynamic.
Different. Yeah, he's a different kind of athlete. Yeah.
Lamar Jackson, small frame, but he's dynamic. Russell Wilson has legs the size of tree trunks. He's dynamic.
Rocket arm.
Tua is not that. And I'm not saying that you can't. Matter of fact, I am saying that. You don't develop into electric or dynamic. That's either something you have or you don't. Can he be solid eventually? Sure. But Mahomes, Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Lamar, Kyler, they came out the gate electric.
Yeah,
what they are. Tua's never going to be electric. He's never going to light the NFL world on fire. And I hate to say the word never, but I'm talking about with his legs, right? He has some added mobility, but I'm not sold on the guy. I really am. And it seems like the Miami Dolphins aren't either. And I don't blame Brian Flores. We ain't got time for him to be out here bull jobbing when we trying to not only win regular season games, but we're trying to see what we could do in the playoffs. Now, I do think they should start him in the playoffs, but if he's struggling for the first series, yank him.
But that's the thing, though. Like, that's the thing. You invested so much in Tua. And what the reason why I say you have to ride out with Tua, good or bad, is because you have to see what you got because you have a top 5 pick. If Tua's not the guy, like, you don't seem to think he's going to be the guy. See, to me, with black coaches, I don't got time to try to bank on a game manager. I need a quarterback that can play. I need a quarterback that can ball. And if I got Houston's pick, and it's going to be – it's number 4 right now. If they lose next week, it could potentially go as high as number 3. I got a top 3 pick. Yes. I need to see what I got so I can make a move on a Justin Fields, on a Zach Wilson, on a Trey Lance. Because like you said, normally – now I will say there's quarterbacks that get better over time. We've seen Ryan Tannehill get better. Tom Brady got better over time. Like, we see some quarterbacks get better over time, but normally, like, you get instant gratification from your quarterback. Like you said, Lamar came out the gates booming. Patrick Mahomes, booming. Aaron Rodgers, as soon as he got a chance to play, he was that guy. Like you normally see what you got in your quarterback as soon as they hit the field. Joe Burrow or whatever. You know, obviously there's some regression sometimes, but like, like, damn, we got a player. And right now, Miami's not like, damn, we got a player. Miami's like, we don't know if, maybe he could be good, but maybe not. And that, I don't need that when I have a top 5 pick in this upcoming draft. Like, when I know I can get his replacement in, that's why I'm saying ride it out. Like, you're not going to win a Super Bowl. You're probably going to make the playoffs. So, like, and whether you make or miss the playoffs, I get it. You want to make it, but you got 10 wins, which is an accomplishment after being like labeled the worst team in football the first half of last year. You got 10 wins. You got and, maybe you missed on a draft pick, but screw it. You missed. You still won 10 games with Fitzpatrick or Tua, and I need to see if Tua's my guy. Because if he is not my guy, and I have the number 3 or number 4 overall pick, and Zach Wilson is potentially there at BYU, who is dynamic, or Trey Lance, who is dynamic, or hell, if Justin Fields slides, who we know is dynamic, I might pull the trigger. I don't know. Because it looks like the rest of my team is pretty good, except for the guys on the outside and maybe the guy under center.
I should have given you a disclaimer. I'm impartial to left-handed quarterbacks. I don't like their throwing motion.
You said that.
I think it takes too long for them to deliver the football, and I think that whereas with a right-handed quarterback or people who throw with their right hand, you're able to see your blind spot a little bit better. So that's part of my Tua bias. Like, I don't like the fact that he throws the ball left-handed. I know he can't change that, but I don't think he's ever going to be great. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't.
Yeah, man. I was a big Tua guy, though. That's why it hurts me every time you say it, because I'm like, damn.
He's got great intangibles. I love his intangibles.
Yeah.
He has a special quality about him as a person, right? Like, I think I think he can galvanize a group. I just don't think that his talent is on par with his actual leadership skills. I'm starting to agree with you, man, because like I said, coming out of college, I was a Tua guy. I thought Tua was Burton Burrow. I thought Justin Herbert was super talented, but it was that Oregon offense, and I didn't watch a lot of Oregon. And I just was like, maybe he'll work, maybe not. It's totally wrong about Burrow. I mean, totally wrong about Herbert. Hell, I was wrong to this point about Burrow and Tua. And Tua is disappointing me, man. I thought I'd get more, but I underestimated the fact that he had 4 first-round wide receivers. I underestimated the fact that one of his wide receivers won the Heisman this year, or will finish top 4 at least. He's a Heisman finalist. Another guy that'll be a first-round pick. And 2 guys that were first-round picks. One was the first receiver in last year's draft. I underestimated all of that stuff, and that matters. And that matters. That makes you look a whole lot better. And then Jedrick Wills, who's also a first-round pick, who's doing really well at the Cleveland Browns, and an offensive line that's got guys that'll be first, second-rounders between last year and this year. I underestimated all of that stuff, man. Like that, all of that matters. All of that does matter. And that's why it's going to be hard to evaluate a guy like Matt Jones coming out of that same Alabama system. But you got those same great receivers. I mean, hell, his offense is even better than what Tua's was during his time in Tuscaloosa. So all of that matters, man. Marcus, thank you again, my brother, for joining me again. Once again, I'm talking to Marcus Lamar from the Mark My Word show.
Be sure to hit the like button, share, subscribe, and follow Marcus on Instagram and on YouTube. He puts out dope content. Also, we are on the Black Boss channel. Be sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell to the Black Boss channel. I'm Jeff Lightsy Jr. That's Marcus Lamar. Thank you guys for tuning in with us, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for having me.
No problem.